the documentary, would get down in the gun. He would say, Christine was physically abusive to Natalia. Do you want me to demonstrate? He'd get up out of his chair where they're filming him. He'd get down on the ground and he'd start beating the ground in a reenactment of how Christine allegedly hit Natalia. What in the... And this man goes crying, and he was sexually abused by Christine, his ex-wife. This is what he alleges. He says, well, it's not your typical sexual abuse that you think of when someone's abusing a child or someone is sexually assaulted. No, I was a sex addict. It was the only thing I could control in my life. She knew it. So she would send me pictures of herself topless, and she would get me to make custody decisions because she knew I was so horny and I wanted it. You cannot, like, you guys, this is the saddest, how this poor woman, and of course, fuck that agency in Florida. You know what? And that's something that's missing from this documentary is what the hell happened to that goddamn piece of shit agency that adopted this poor girl to the Barnetts that never did a full background check, because they would have found out, which we find out in the documentary, is that Michael and Christine had a long history of police calls. They had on and off physical abuse, fights, threatening each other. And then in the midst of all that, Christine and Jacob's oldest son is a savant, essentially. This Jacob Barnett, who appears as the only child, and Christine doesn't appear in the documentary. Natalia doesn't either, but here's the catch. Natalia's side, Natalia Speaks is what it's titled. Her own side of the story is coming out very, very soon. Entertainment Tonight had a sneak peek. I cannot wait to hear that. I want to hear from this poor woman. Oh my God, who's a woman now. But after all this, I actually believe, I do think her age was off. Okay. When the Barnett family adopts her, they think she was born in 2003, and they adopt her, 2009, 2010. So she would have been like 7 years old. I do think that was slightly off. Okay. I don't think she was 7 years old. I think she was older. And Beth Karras, shout out to Beth Karras, who you'll see in the documentary, longtime attorney. Oh, also went to my alma mater, Mount Holyoke chick, very smart woman. She's in it and she breaks it down. She says a lot of times this re-aging goes on often in international adoptions because usually the international agency, meaning whatever country the child's coming from, they'll change up the birthday because a younger kid is obviously more desirable, right? The younger the child, the better for a family. So it wouldn't shock me if Natalia's age is off by like, okay, they thought she was 7, she's probably 10, right? Or 11, which you know that kids 10 or 11 can start getting pubic hair now. Seems wild, but it does happen more often than we think. So that makes sense to me. But she now, after watching this chick wasn't 17. At just the age of, so if we're going by, she was born in 2003, or let's say she was born in 2000, right? By 2013, they moved this girl out to 2 apartments on her own when she's probably just 13 or 14 years old. And y'all, they get the neighbors. They get the neighbors of 2 of these apartment complexes to talk about Natalia. Now, this is interesting because at this point, I'm all in Team Natalia. This poor woman, I cannot believe I thought she could have been, a psycho orphan when in fact, she absolutely not, right? She's probably so abused by this family. And the other weird thing, they're always, and the film evidence is used in the documentary, they're always filming and confronting Natalia. Natalia, why did you pee the bed? Did you pee the bed? And then they're like, you're going to be in timeout. You're going to stay, just very abusive, very like not at all concerned, but more like already from the defensive, they hate her. It's really fucked up. Whereas most people, right? You find this girl, she's got behavioral issues. I would think maybe you're filming the behavior when you like, maybe you don't think she's looking to show a therapist, but you'd be immediately getting her to a therapist going, okay, what's going on? What can we do? They never do really any of that. Okay. They kind of hash this plan to get her re-aged, which they're successful in doing. And then they move her out to her own apartment as a way to get rid of her. Y'all wild. Now, this is where it does flip back to, I don't know that Natalia is as innocent either. Okay. But if she's only 13 or 14 years old and she's living on her own, her behavior makes a lot of sense. She's in this one apartment complex in the Midwest. They get all her neighbors to go on camera. And the neighbors basically say she was a pest. She'd sit out on, the stoop. She'd, every time they came out, she'd come over. She'd want to talk to them. She'd be asking a lot of questions. When are you going to be coming back? When are you gone? She entered people's apartments when they weren't there. She would help herself to food. I mean, she apparently was like always hungry. Christine and them had gotten her food stamps, but really didn't help her or get her food until the state had got involved. So, and they said that she did tell some really weird stories, like how she did try to poison Christine, and that's why she was living there, which clearly freaked the neighbors out. She also talked about an incident where she had hid knives in her room because she was, going to kill Christine if Christine tried to attack her. The neighbors, and there's this one grandmother, you all know who I'm talking about if you've watched it. There's like this one grandmother that's like, oh, she was possessed. Like this grandmother has no fucks. This grandmother's like, she was a pest. Nobody liked her. I couldn't wait to see her gone. I mean, like the grandmother's like spoken by a true grandmother, I guess. But even a young couple, they were like, yeah, she was really off. Now, again, I think most of us would be if we were abandoned by our Ukrainian mom, adopted by this horrible family that doesn't want us and was probably abusive, and then sent out on our own to fend for ourselves in an apartment. We were like 13 or 14. All right. So I did flip-flop back to like, she's probably not, I mean, she probably had some serious issues and some of the neighbors were afraid of her. So, by the way, we learn about her Ukrainian mom in this documentary. It's full circle. They go back to the Ukraine right before like the Ukrainian war. This is like all new. They get a DNA test, and it is one of the saddest moments of the documentary. The mom basically says that in the Ukraine, when she gave birth to Natalia, and she says Natalia was born in 2003. So she confirms that Natalia is not even off. Like I suggest that Natalia is like the age she says she is. So if she was born in 2003, she's 20 now. So it's very sad. And the mom says that she gave up Natalia because the doctor said that she was deformed. She would never walk on her own. And they should just abandon her at the hospital. They would send her to the United States to be adopted and don't look back. And like the mom's heartbroken. She says it's the worst thing ever. She thought her daughter would be better off in the United States. And then it turned out to be worse. I mean, I just can't even imagine. But they actually speak to the mother. Then, because there's some debate about Natalia's age, cleanliness, she's in this apartment where, I think she's like up on a second story where she can't really walk. Eventually, Michael and Christine are investigated. They get divorced, and they are charged with like child neglect, all this stuff. The two of them get incredibly lucky. Michael goes to a full trial. He's found not guilty of any child abuse charges because the judge rules in this case that age cannot be a factor, which of course the whole case is based on age, right? Because if they turned her out and she was just 12 years old, even 16 years old as a minor, they're fucking responsible, which I believe after watching this, they totally did. I think they were nutsacks to begin with. They adopt this little girl. Things get even more out of control. Maybe she did have behavioral issues because given her life and because she was with even another family before the Barnetts, that family decided they didn't want her and were basically shopping around to try to sell her or give her to another family. This poor girl has been so abused. Like, thank God we're going to finally hear from her. And the family that has been with her, I really kind of want to meet and give credit to because we really had a whole different picture of this story. And the Barnetts are going to be like destroyed in public opinion after this. I mean, Michael Barnett, what a mess. A mess. At the end, they show how manipulative and crazy he is. And he's like, do you want crying? Because I can do that. I can put on crying. Anyway, the way this ends, because we've not heard Natalie's part, which will be out at any point. Again, there's so much fluff in between. Oh my God, you guys. They spend an episode going through the trial prep. That could have been 3 minutes, sweetie, and we could have moved the fuck on, okay? And we have to hear Michael's reaction to the trial, Michael's mother's lead up to the trial. Again, I give the production company a ton of credit. Like, they got all access to this guy. It's amazing that he would do this. The verdict is neither Christine nor Michael are charged. They get divorced. Jacob Barnett, who's in the film, living in his father's basement, is still some savant, apparently working in physics, but he's it certainly doesn't look like a glamorous life. He got his master's supposedly at 14. I'm sure he's very bright, but he looks like a sad young man. And we just see this other guy, this other little person that Christine reached out to, that at first she just kind of wanted to supposedly ask him questions to make Natalia more comfortable. And then she starts sending him sexually explicit photos, and then supposedly wants him to hook up with Natalia. It's so fucked, you guys. This documentary is crazy. Crazy. Anyhow, I need to hear from Natalia. And that's it. The documentary ends with Christine and Michael never being charged. Michael's trying to supposedly rebuild his life. I have no idea. I mean, I don't even know why Michael would agree to do this. I don't know what job is going to keep him employed. He looks like a psycho. Did you watch? What'd y'all think? I mean, the twists, the turns. That was the most wild documentary I have seen in years. I cannot wait for her to speak. My God, I hope Natalia is okay. I mean, she, of course I'm sure she has issues. My God, this child's been abused, maybe not a ton in the physical sense, although they definitely talk about kind of abusing her physically. But I mean, just shopped around from family to family. And I hope she is thriving and she continues to thrive when Natalia Speaks is out. I have yet to see a drop date for that, but I'm guessing here in the next week, and I will fully be covering.